Plus, a big issue on the ballot next month, marijuana.
The tax revenue is very important, but also what becomes important for each and every state is that trackability of the whole marketplace.
And are you ready for the business ramifications? We're scratching the surface of the cannabis conversation on This Week in Jacksonville. Stay with us. So the governor's race may be the most important part of the ballot, but is Amendment 2 the most notable or the most notorious? We're going to look at business-related issues with medical marijuana as a possibility in Florida. That's next. The emerging marijuana industry could be the state's biggest business experiment of the 21st century. One way states may try to ensure a legal, fair, and accountable business model would be establishing an electronic marketplace.
It's the first fully electronic marketplace for the wholesale distribution of cannabis. It's for fully licensed participants.
Steve Janjic has spent his career in places like Wall Street, but he's convinced the wave of the future includes creating a transactional environment or marketplace for marijuana. Is it based on an auction model?
It is based similar to how any financial market would trade. So there's a bid-offer spread, and that is created by the participants in the marketplace. We then have built our own matching engine that will match those participants together and execute that order. And we also have algorithms that create that market for them.
While Florida voters consider the legalization of medical marijuana, Washington and Colorado legalized recreational use. Janjic says that's where you can find the need for a regulated marketplace to make sure the black market doesn't collect all the money at the expense of law-abiding businesses.
Well, we've seen the downside in Colorado already. And what's happened is, and this is what the constituents were sold, is that there's a tremendous amount of tax revenue to be had here. What they found in Colorado is with the inability to track these transactions, they haven't been able to track the revenue properly, and the result has been a shortfall in the revenue coffers. What we do is we allow a fully electronic marketplace where you have transparency, you have accountability, you have a marketplace where everything can be tracked. That traceability is key to any marketplace. We are really what they call seed to sale. As that plant starts to cultivate and grow, we can track that plant through the entire sales process, which is very important to everybody, from regulatory agencies to the individual business owners who then can get granular into their own business model to see where they make money, where they don't.
Jennifer Carroll rejoining us. Now, one element we have to acknowledge in the possibility of legalizing medical marijuana, lots of other legislation would happen to make all of that legal, right?
That is correct. Just because the law itself passes doesn't mean it goes into effect right away. The legislative body is going to have to write the rules and the regulations as to how it's going to be governed. Also, too, if an area that is approved by the state, we have an agency now that's called a Compassionate Use Agency under the Department of Health that's going to be regulating the marijuana industry, because Charlotte's Web was passed in the last legislative session, and they're going to dictate where those growers are able to be in 5 regions in the state. However, if in any one of those areas, counties, that the county vote not to have this activity and zoning in their area, that person cannot grow marijuana in that county or municipality. So it's not going to be, here it is, it's passed, and then we enact it the next day. It's going to be a long process, I think over a year, before we can really see the full-blown rules and regulations and taxation as to how it's going to be implemented.
Many conservatives or Republicans have pushed back against the idea. That doesn't always square up with what conservatives have said about less regulation, right?
This is true, and this is something that's a bit oxymoron, because we go, Republicans are for personal responsibility and individual making up their own minds based on their money and what they want to do. And then in this instance, you say, no, we don't want it because, and the excuse is, it's going to open up to full marijuana use for recreational use. But if recreational use is to be a part of the law here, it has to go through the ballot process. whether it's from the legislative side or the petition side from the citizens. So it's not going to be because you have medical marijuana legislation or amendment that's passed, it's going to automatically open the door for recreational use.
But that's what a lot of people are kind of afraid of, isn't it?
Yeah, they're afraid of, and they're saying that. We have 22 states, including the District of Columbia, so 23 of our states that have some sort of medical marijuana legislation that have passed. Georgia's looking at theirs. Ohio and Pennsylvania is also having on a ballot this coming November.
And so we'll see what happens this November for us in Florida. Jennifer Carroll, I appreciate your time and your insights this morning. This Week in Jacksonville airing each Sunday at this time. Next week, you're going to hear from the